Hey, everybody, welcome to this week's episode of What's Bruin. I am your host, Chris Nozick, joined as always by my co host, the one and only Dom Tiano. Dom, can you hear me okay right now?
I hear you just fine. Sometimes
Okay.
better than I want to.
Well, right now I'm having an issue with the overlay coming off, and there's our ugly mugs, at least mine. Anyways, we had a great episode last Friday. That one will be posted out as a pod very, very soon with all the prospects time stamped. It was a great long episode where we went in depth. So it hasn't been that long since we sat down on the mics here, but how you been? How was your weekend?
Doing great. No complaints. Went to some friends for supper on Saturday. Had a great smoked brisket. Had a good Sunday. Back to work yesterday. And I know you're preparing for surgery at 6:30 in the morning, so 12 hours from now. So I'll
Yeah,
be spending tomorrow hoping that it went well.
you and me both. But yeah, no, it this will be a good way to kill a little bit of time as we prepare to venture off onto that. But yeah, shouldn't be too bad. And you mentioned the smoked brisket, and all you can do is make me hungry. You know, we tape this before I eat.
Ah, well,
So,
see, I wolf food down before we do
and
this. So
unlike Kevin, I don't eat on camera as much
yeah,
as I. Some if it's really that bad, then I will. But I unlike Kevin, who's always eating a burrito or something. Anyway,
yeah,
um, other people though not so happy. Big news has broken. This isn't the kind of breaking news that we were expecting to have coming into the show, but Washington Capitals bought Cap Friendly, and a lot of people not happy about it.
yeah. There a lot of people are unhappy because they think a free service is disappearing. Um, I will say this: Cap Friendly wasn't free. To get everything that was available cost you $99 a year. But Puckpedia is still out there, 100% free, has all the information that you need and more, uh, even more so than Cap Friendly. So I would suggest following Puckpedia on X, um, bookmarking their website. And if it's just Bruins cap that you're interested in, you could always go to my website. I have one spot there just for the cap. It's updated every day at 5 o'clock when the NHL day closes. So um, there are options out there for everybody.
Yeah, I think it's a great opportunity because someone else is going to expand on the idea and come up with their own thing. Good on those guys for cashing in on something that started out probably as a hobby, and it just I think a lot of people are upset because, like you said, it's a free thing that's going away because it did all the work for you.
Yeah.
Um,
And Dominic, great name, is a great guy over at Cap Friendly too. So um, he's always been good to me. We've talked a few times amongst ourselves, and good for him. Um, if you saw Elliot Friedman's tweet today, there's going to be some NHL teams that are hurting because they rely on it. That's
yeah,
on them.
I was gonna say
That's on them.
I kind of find that funny
Yeah,
because I know you do all your sheets off of spreadsheets. I do all mine off of spreadsheets. I'm sure that's how Evan Gold operates, is off of spreadsheets and actual math calculations done out by hand because that is the tried and true method of math. But honest to God, the reason why people loved it is because you didn't have to know anything really. Is what it comes down to. You didn't have to know the calculation for a buyout because all you had to do was plug in, go to the buyout calculator, find your team, find the player, and then at the bottom it would spit out all the information you're looking
yeah.
for. It's not hard math. You just have to give a little bit of a crap to learn what the formula is. It's all based on just a simple formula.
Exactly. And if any NHL team that needs somebody is hiring, I'm here. Send me an email.
Some of it I can do. I'll spend the time looking through the CBA to find the math equation. I mean, come on. I mean, good on those guys, though. They cashed in on an opportunity. Honestly, I'd say it took them long enough. I mean, if teams are out there legitimately relying on this public site that you and I can use as Joe Schmo GM armchair guy, I mean, honestly, that's pathetic on their part.
Yeah, it is. The Bruins have one of the best guys in there, so I'm not worried about Boston. I do want to say this since we're talking about cap because I know I will forget it later on, but because of the Four Nations tournament, um, that means a longer season. It's usually 186 days. Last year was 192. Actually, I think it's gone up because of the bye weeks. Next season will be even longer, and that means that when I'd have to explain the formula to everybody, but without getting into that detail, that means money that you're banking is worth more at trade deadline because of the way the calculation works. So, good thing that Four Nations tournament.
Yeah, I think it's going to be exciting hockey to watch, and I do want to let Kevin and Matrix know that in the comments that I do see them. Right now, I'm running into an issue where it's just a perpetual circle of trying to load everything in the comment section. So I'll try and pull them up as soon as I can. But I just wanted to let them know that I'm not ignoring them. I just, for whatever reason, it's not working for me. If you have the ability to pop them up, please do so. On mine, it's just a loading circle. So, anyways. Again, good on Cap Friendly. I'm kind of surprised it took someone this long to buy it. Yeah, math is hard, Kevin. 2 + 2 = 5. I mean, apparently in Arizona it was 2 + 2 = an unpaid hotel bill. But Albin with a question here: do you think we can fetch any of Pinto Norris from the Sens if Allmark agrees to a trade? Can you see Pinto as a 1 or a 2C? I know you don't want to do trade scenarios of Allmark.
Actually, Albin, I'm pretty sure this is the Albin from Sweden that emailed me the day before yesterday. And in case you missed it, Albin, I did reply to your email. I reply to every email that gets sent to me via my site. Albin, I don't want to speculate on what possible returns could be. What I will do is laugh at some of the proposals that media is putting out there. There's no way in hell Linus Ullmark gets you Jacob Chikrin, a first round pick, plus another pick.
There's no way he gets you both of those.
No.
I mean, unless that pick is in 2032, there's no way you're getting a first and Chikrin. And even then, no one's trading a 2032 pick until 2030.
Especially for a guy who's only got 1 year left on his contract.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are making those kinds of deals in their mind with the assumption that Ullmark extends. And
I will say this about Steve Staios, the general manager of the Senators. He was the general manager of the Hamilton Bulldogs, won an OHL championship. And I can tell you, I've got a lot of connections through the Bulldogs organization. And if you would ask them, hey, you guys got anything planned per trade deadline, blah, 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 blah. We don't know. Steve isn't telling us.
Yeah.
He doesn't tell his own team. He's not leaking information out like that to the media. I guarantee it.
Yeah. I mean, that's why I find some of the speculation and the trade proposals put out there. I mean, yeah, it's fun to talk about, but that's one of those things where 99.9% of the shit thrown out there doesn't even come close to happening. And you know, I mean, Marner's another example from Toronto. I think everybody in their head has done some form of trading Mitch Marner, even you know, in some way, shape, or form. One, he's got the no movement clause, so we don't even know if he's willing to move it to any team. Second of all, like, does it make sense for him to sit there and say, "Screw you, I'm not waiving my no movement clause, and you know, I'll take the role that you give me and whatever," because no, it doesn't make sense. But could he do it? He could. He could, if they could go to him and say, "Well, we're going to play you on the fourth line. We're going to give you almost no minutes a night, and whatever." And Marner can just look at him and go, "Okay," and call their bluff, because he also knows that's not in the best interest of the team that wants to try to win games.
That's right. I mean, a lot of what's out there is just clickbait material. That's all it is.
I can't tell you how many times I've seen headlines that have Allmark already traded.
Yeah.
Trade imminent. Well, if that's the case, it was supposed to be done, based off of what I've seen, it was supposed to be done last Monday. It was supposed to be done on Thursday. It was supposed to be done on Saturday. Like, it's not.
Yeah. We saw that the Canes were going to make their move by the weekend.
Yeah. Guess who's still on the Canes? Martin Aegis.
Yeah.
He's still there. Allmark's still in Boston. Saros is still in Nashville. Again, it's fun to talk about, but it's all just speculation, because especially once you throw the no movement clauses in there, you don't know how the players are going to feel. Did anybody see McDonough going back to Tampa Bay?
No. Nobody did.
But what happened? The player went in during exit interviews and said, I love it here. However, if you can facilitate getting me back home to Tampa, I'd greatly appreciate it. Now, was the deal a little underwhelming in favor of what Tampa sent back? You could make the case for that. But you know what? Trotz got a couple picks that he felt comfortable with, and he helped the player out. And that's part of why players are going to want to go to Nashville to play for Barry Trotz, because they know if they go to him and say, "Hey, this is how I'm feeling about something," he will take care of them. If let's play the scenario out. Marner calls the Toronto Maple Leafs bluff, and he plays 7 minutes a night in a fourth line role. Every GM is going to sit there and go, "Well, now players aren't going to want to go play for Treliving up in Toronto, because if it comes down to it, he's going to hard grind them to nothing and say, screw you."
Yep.
And by the way, he's costing them games because he's having the coach play an elite scorer on the fourth line. It's just not his game. So looks bad on the GM, looks bad on the coach because he's going through with it. Or the coach says, "Screw my GM, I'm going to try to win these games." And now you have a rift between the GM and the head coach. Like, it's just going to create nothing but problems. So honestly, if I'm Mitch Marner, that's kind of a move where it's like, okay, I'll call your bluff. Until you send me where I want to go, I'll call your bluff. I don't want to leave. Still can't get the chat to load up, though.
I got it. Mike's got one here.
Mike, wonder if Bruins surprisingly get a first-round pick in a trade with next year's draft class. Better to have that pick than have 2 first-round picks. I think what he's trying to say is, would it be better to have 2 first-round picks next year, or have 1 this year and 1 next year?
Well, it depends on the pick, Mike. I would rather have 10 this year than 20 next year.
And actually, go ahead.
Let's assume it was the 10th, either this year or the 10th next year. Personally, I would take the 10th next year. This draft has 12, 14 very good players. As good as Celebrini is, he's not a generational talent. But he's in a class by himself in this draft. And then there's a drop. But it's a defense-heavy draft. So next year, you've got a very good draft that is forward-heavy. So that's why I would go that route. Now, mind you, once you get past the 6 NHL defensemen, The Bruins aren't deep on D.
Yeah.
They're not.
I was going to say that brings me to we actually had a couple questions that popped up on HF boards based off of Friday's prospect rundown. And one of the questions was, what do the Bruins look for in the upcoming draft? Now, you mentioned it's a defensive heavy draft, and we went through all the prospects. And yes, they have a couple good prospects, but at the same time, they're still prospects. They're not guaranteed, and they're all at least 2, 3, 4, 5 years away. So the question then becomes, are they going to look to draft defense this year? Is it something that they can get someone who next year could potentially help them out? Or do they work on trying to get some centers in the system to kind of replenish the forward pool? And I mean, Sweeney's always done a great job of getting undrafted free agents, college free agents, mostly on defense.
Their first pick is in the 4th round.
Right.
They will be lucky to get an NHL player. So at that point, you just get the player that projects to have a very steep upwards trajectory.
Best player available, basically.
It's not even the best player available. The best player available in round 4 may not be the best player 2 years from now. It's all about projection. So, like, I'm currently working on potential picks for the Bruins with their 3 picks. It's not very promising. I can tell you that.
I can't imagine picking in the 4th round gives you a lot of promise in that regard. So I don't know. Do you think they should focus more on forwards defense? Picking in rounds 4, 5, and 6 doesn't really matter.
It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. You get the guy with the highest projection.
Now, if they are able to get said hypothetical 1st round pick, are you targeting a forward versus a defenseman? Are you targeting
there? You're going best player available.
Okay.
If the best player is a defenseman, you grab a defenseman. If the best player is a center, you grab him.
I was going to say, I'm not complaining about who they draft, whether they jump up to the 10th overall in an Allmark deal or some other way. I mean, at this point, it's a draft. I mean, I have to believe that they've done their job as the scouting department. I have to believe that Sweeney has done enough to redo this whole scouting situation from what people like to complain about almost 10 years ago. And, if they take 3 picks, then I hope one of them hits. I mean, any general manager would take 1 and 3. Let's be honest. Albin also says, if we disregard Allmark, do you like Pinto as a trade target?
I do, but
I like the idea of targeting him in a deal. I just don't know that Boston is the team that has the assets to get it done.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure Ottawa wants to sell on him. There's a lot going on in Ottawa that, I mean, Staios also isn't stupid. He knows a good deal when he gets one. Pinto coming off of half a season and with some of the issues he's coming off of, he's still a very talented player. He's going to cost less than, even some of the guys on their current team are going to cost them. I mean, he's going to cost you less than Stützle. He's going to cost you. Now, is he going to get him for, the next 4 years? Probably not. But at the same time, Pinto knows what having the contract go away is like. So he may take a little less to get term. I don't know. Steven asks, where do you think Reed Dick goes this year? Do you see Dick getting redrafted? I'll start with that question.
Doesn't happen with goaltenders. It doesn't. So even if he does, he can return back to the WHL for an overage year, which is what I think happens.
Yeah, I wish the Bruins had signed him, but I wonder if I don't know why they didn't, but I mean, you're gonna have Swayman ideally locked up for a number of years, and you'll have Bussy or DiPietro. I mean, if you have Swayman locked up, it doesn't really. I don't want to say it doesn't matter who your backup is, but I mean, how many teams do we see go through a cycle of backups? I mean, we had Halak for a couple years behind Rask. We had, you know, I'm trying to remember some of the other ones, but what, like Manny Fernandez was in for a year, Hanu Toivonen was in for a year. Like, this is going back a ways, but you didn't. Once you have the guy, the second goaltender on your roster, unless you're doing a 50-50 split, I mean, shit, I'd go get Anton Forsberg as a number two.
I think with the age of Swayman and Bussy, that they felt that it's probably this is the best time to cut ties with Dick. Let him move on, see if he can catch on someplace else. Because eventually, if you got Swayman and Bussy long term, you're losing him for nothing to waivers anyway.
Yeah, and at least now, you can keep him on your radar. You can kind of keep in touch with his camp, and if someone else comes along and they say we want to put you in our ECHL system, okay, it's not the end of the world, but it gives you time to kind of work through, because you're only allowed a certain number of goaltenders in your entire under contract anyway. Mike says I could be wrong. I thought I heard that NHL may consider a 4-round draft only someday. Thoughts on that possibility?
Well, Mike, I think it's the NHLPA, not the NHL, that is looking at that because there's the CBA expires in 2026. The PA is starting to go through it, talk to players, see what they want changed, what they can live with, so on and so forth. Personally, I would love it if the draft was just 4 rounds. That's
Yeah,
me personally.
I don't have a problem with that either. I think a 4-round draft would benefit a lot of people, and their reasoning behind it too actually makes sense. They're basically saying anybody drafted from rounds 5, 6, and 7 have such a long shot at getting an entry level contract anyway, that those players having 5 years of team control hurts them more than anything.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't say I disagree with that, because if I was going to be drafted in the 5th round, I mean, have by one team that's just going to keep me in their system for 4 years and then let me go, versus, now I'm an undrafted free agent and I can go to go sign out on as a PTO, get an ATO, go to camp and fight my way onto a roster. It gives me 32 options to do that.
Yep.
Let's see. Steven says, what prevents the Bruins from signing him if he doesn't get drafted this year? I presume he's asking about Reed Dick.
Yeah, there's nothing to stop them.
Yeah, that's just, he's just not their exclusive property anymore. So they share rights with 32 other teams to sign him. And, I mean, he's the kind of guy that, watch out for like Vegas. You know what I mean? Like they do so much random stuff that getting him in their system could help them in the long term. And they are going to need cheap players down the road because the cap is what it is for them. And they don't draft players anyway.
Yeah.
And when they do, they trade them. I think they traded 3 of their first 4 first-round picks that they ever had.
Yeah, but they won the Stanley Cup. They've done well.
Oh, yeah.
Kudos to them.
Don't get me. Yeah, they're the ones that are going to make it interesting when LTIR comes up at the negotiating table.
Well, I don't think the union is going to complain much about it, to be honest with you. Why would it? It gets them more players on an NHL salary.
Right. I don't know. It just, I also don't hate the way that it is right now, because at the end of the day, what's a better way of doing it? Because there are players like Carey Price is a good example. If you're Montreal and you have to deal with Carey Price's situation, this is the way that makes the most sense to do it. Now, that being said, for so long you had a team like Arizona that was willing to take on the dead contract money just so they could say we're at the cap floor. That's a
Mm-hmm.
problem. But that's not a problem because of the system. I mean, Arizona was in a position where they had like they had like $25 million on LTIR at one point in the last couple of years. Imagine if they decided one day to just say, fuck it, let's start spending now. Like, that gives them a lot more room to work with, and they could have done a lot to fix that team. They just had a cheap ass owner who didn't want to pay his hotel bills, let alone his players. So, like, that's not on LTIR and the functionality of it. That's on having a bad owner.
Well, you need a system because there are legitimate injuries in there. If you get rid of LTIR and you're at the cap, you're a cap spending team like the Bruins, and let's say McAvoy goes down for 3 months, but there's no LTIR, you can't replace him. All of a sudden now you're playing with 19 players.
Yeah, it just because you can't even get a guy in for league minimum. Like, it just doesn't work. I think the system they have works. The problem is when you have, a percentage of ownership around your league that just doesn't give a fuck about winning. Like, the ones that care about winning are going to win, and the ones that don't are gonna show up. I really think that this move to Utah is a massive win for the league, because you have an owner now who sits there and goes, I want my team to look good. I may not win every year, but I sure as hell am going to try to. I mean, shit, even the Buffalo Sabres and the Anaheim Ducks, yeah, they've been bad for a long time. They've been working on a rebuild. At least those teams, they always say you're either selling wins or you're selling hope. Those teams at least have hope. They have young, talented players. They're going to have to change something up soon because it's not working, but there's a direction at least. Utah was always a wild card. You didn't know what, there was no direction.
I think that changed when Armstrong went in, though. I think Utah is they're heading in the right direction.
Yeah, I think, I mean, they need to spend what, like 12 or 16 million just to get to the cap floor now?
Yep. Something like that.
I'm gonna double check. I want to say, let's see, current cap space. They have $40 million in cap space right now. They're projected to be at 47 when the year starts, and the floor is 65. They have $40 million in cap space to work with. Now, granted, they have a lot of work that has to be done to the roster, but like every defenseman they have, but that's beside the point. They have the money to do it, and they have a fuck ton of picks.
Yep. How about Don Sweeney?
Don Sweeney has no picks.
No. GM of the year.
Oh, finished what, fifth?
Was it fourth or fifth?
Fourth or fifth. I mean, but so he's finished GM of the year, top 5, what? Almost every single year he's been the GM?
Yeah. And people in Boston still hate him.
I don't get it. I don't know why. Was 2015 really that traumatic for you? That 10 years later you still can't get over it?
I don't know. I think it goes more than that. I don't know. I just never understand it.
Like, has he
But it
made bad
is what it
moves?
is.
Yeah, has he made bad moves, bad signings? Sure. Backus, Bolesky, they didn't work out. Well, the Backus one, even then, you can make the case it started out like a great deal. It was like 2 years too long. It happens.
Yeah.
Like, and
Every
both
GM
times,
makes
like,
a mistake.
and not to mention every year, I mean, even now this year, people are coming out saying sign Reinhardt, sign, you know, this free, all the top end free agents, all the most expensive guys. Jake Gensel, go, you got to let Jake DeBrusk walk because you got to bring in Jake Gensel. Okay, so when Jake Gensel comes in and flops, are you going to ridicule Don Sweeney for getting the best available winger that was on the market and letting Jake DeBrusk go? No, you're going to give him shit like there's no tomorrow. Shouldn't have let Jake DeBrusk go.
Yeah.
Let's see. Need Gordon Howe from HF to come on and explain his hate. I would love
I
to
will
find
say
out
this,
why.
Rob. I I will say this. I made a comment about Cam Neely a few years ago. And he took that and has used it in his arguments every day on why to hate Cam Neely.
Oh, okay. Do I dare ask what this
Uh,
comment was?
bi-
A dog
no,
bomb.
my comment. I
Yeah,
basically
no.
wasn't a fan of Cam Neely as an executive. Love Cam Neely,
Oh,
the
well,
hockey player, not the executive. And
yeah. I
since
mean,
then, he's taken it and run.
some people will do that. I don't get it. I mean, again, Don Sweeney ain't perfect, but I've also seen him learn from his mistakes. And quite frankly, some of the mistakes he's made, he's gotten out of in really creative ways. The Bolesky mistake, well, you got Rick Nash out of it. And the Backus mistake, you got Hampus Lindholm out of. Kevin says the Backus deal would have been fine if he didn't get multiple concussions and diverticulitis. Yeah. Which was what, 3 years into the 5-year deal? But they were both the best
Year two,
players.
wasn't it?
Or was it year two? It was,
I think it
yeah,
was.
it was year two. The first year, though, looked great.
Yeah.
He was
But
great.
remember when he came in, like, he was saying he was saying that he was told he was going to play center, and the team was saying no, he's going to play wing, and there was that initial confusion right off the hop.
Yeah. Let's see. Mike's Good Music says, am I the only one excited for a hockey trade for the Boston Bruins this offseason? Losing a player like Freddie or Coyle or even Carlo is going to hurt, but I'm excited for a shakeup if it's in a good way. Those are three interesting names to throw out there for a quote-unquote hockey trade. I really only see one of them being brought up in deals extensively. I'll rephrase. Two of them I think will get mentioned, but I'm not sure. I think they're too important in house to get rid of. What are your thoughts on those three names?
It's like I've been maintaining for months. It's all speculation. I got nothing to say about it. Don Sweeney is not going to leak information out, and chances are he's going to do something nobody expects. Like
Yeah.
I just don't like speculating.
Well, as far as guys that you would make available in a deal, I
Well,
mean, in my
but
opinion,
to me, everybody's available. You've heard
I
me
was gonna
say
say,
it a
in my
million
opinion, they're
times.
all available. I
For
don't.
for the price, I would trade my mother for the right price. It's
Yeah,
hockey.
you got to be trying to win.
Yeah,
And
so you can't tell me what do you think about trading Carlo without telling me what's coming back. And even then, chances are I'm not going to comment on it because I would rather prefer to deal in facts and not speculation.
yeah, and it's not like any of them have a price point that's been leaked. If we're looking to deal Carlo, we're hoping to get X, Y, and Z back. I think the most that we have to go off of is Sweeney's comments about, Allmark, in the sense that he mentioned a first round talent. And that's something that if you look at a lot of his other deals, even the Bolesky deal, the Backus deal, shipping these guys out, he brought in guys. He shipped out Thomas Nosek for Zaka. Like
No,
not Nosek. It was
Eric Holla.
But he went out and he got first round picks. They were already all drafted and in systems and all that stuff, but they were all picked in the first round. So I guess we could look back to drafts as far back as you want and figure out, okay, these players were all picked in the first round. Which ones are likely to be dealt? And then kind of go from there. But there's so much what if in that, it's not worth it. That's just what he's going to look for.
It's like if you ask me my thoughts on the reported trade of Allmark to Ottawa for Chychrun, the first round pick, and another pick, we've already discussed it. I will tell you, I think it's hogwash because Steve Staios doesn't operate that way. He doesn't leak information like is being it's like insinuated, I guess. Yeah. And the fact that it is a massive fucking overpayment from Ottawa.
Right. There's just so much in that screams fuck no, that it's not even worth taking serious. Now, the more realistic is maybe it was maybe someone overheard a conversation and they went with but it was actually we'll give you a first round pick or Jacob Chychrun. That makes more sense. But again, to your point, a lot of general managers don't let stuff leak out as much as they can. Things that get out in the media are calculated. It's the same thing.
It's clickbait. It's just clickbait. That's all it is.
But the things that do get out that are confirmed, like they're leaked out in a way that's tactical. You really think that Mitch Marner's camp isn't saying he's happy staying there because it drives up his price and his value? Like,
here's the new one today, because somebody likes the idea of trading Mason Lohrei for Trevor Zegras.
Fuck that.
And I guarantee you it's going to be talked on podcasts for the next week. It already is. I watched one earlier. My comment to it was this. I wasn't willing to trade Mason Lohrei for Noah Hannafin. Why the fuck would I trade him for Trevor Zegras?
Yeah, that's the best question that I would pose back for that. Also, defensemen are way harder to get than forwards. So, no. I'm not trading. What is Mason Lohrei? 21 right now?
22, I believe.
I'm not trading a 22-year-old defenseman on an ELC for what amounts to be a trick shot show pony. Like, is he talented? Yeah, he's talented. He can do a lot with the puck that a lot of players can't. But, I mean, what are you going to do with him in this system? I just don't – it doesn't fit. And I'm not giving up Mason Lohrei for that. It just doesn't make sense. Rob said Cam Neely, the figurehead, would have been a great idea, but giving him any sort of power was a big mistake. And then Blues fans were ecstatic day one of the deal being signed with Boston. First sign it was going to be a tough deal, which...
Okay, Rob, this is Backus. I want to comment on this. Okay,
gotcha.
Here's the thing, Rob. You shouldn't give a shit what fans think, especially from opposing teams, because you know what? At the time that deal was signed, I don't know if you can see that window behind me here. I can look out that window, 3 doors that way, and I have a very good friend who works in the front office with the St. Louis Blues. Okay, a lot of where I get my Blues info comes from there, and they were upset at the fact that Back is signed with Boston. Um, they didn't want him to go. Boston just offered him one more year than St. Louis did. So it doesn't matter what Blues fans thought, it's what Blues management thinks it's important.
Yeah. And the fact
And
that they didn't want
if you know me, Rob, I was all over the Braden Shen to Boston trade. He kept saying to me wasn't going to happen until 6 months later. Elliot Friedman wrote the story interviewing Braden Shen on how he almost became a Boston Bruin 6 months earlier.
it's almost like you get information that's reliable most of the time.
Yeah. So that's why I deal in facts. I don't deal in speculation.
Let's see. Kevin says he's going to fleece Chicago for Bedard. Now that's
Yeah,
a deal
good
I would
luck.
include for. Sorry, but I'd
And
include Matt
here, this
Patra. Manufactured news.
Mike says it here. Why is
Is it the manufactured news one?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the best way to put it. It's just trying to create stories where there isn't one. Like I don't know what to tell people. You know, if you want to have overreactions and stuff, great, go right ahead. But the only person whose heart you're hurting is your own. Like, again, is it fun to speculate and kind of talk about trades and stuff? Yeah, but at the same time, you know, you can talk about 150 trades and none of them happen, and it was all for nothing.
Right.
It's it's more
And
fun to
it's
hear
the
somebody.
same thing every it's the same every year. Every trade deadline, every free agency.
It just and honestly, more often than not, are the stories that come out of some of these, that the trades that didn't materialize, or the ones that did and why. Like the stories that started coming out about Cutter Gauthier getting traded from Philly to Anaheim, that blindsided all of us. But it sounds like in the hockey world, people knew he was available. That's the benefit of what happens when you don't leak your information. Not a lot of people knew he was available, but some did. I still don't know why I can't get the chat, the comments to come up on my side here. My computer just doesn't want. Let's see. Dom, you talk a lot about Kuntar pushing the needle this preseason. How far away do you see Duran being?
I say 2 years, but I'll tell you, there's scouting, independent scouting agencies that think that Durant could push next season. Keynes, for instance, did their prospect watch and thinks Durant could push for a job next season. I wouldn't put it past him, but I think Kuntar for me is the one that's going to make the push.
There's also the fact that on the right side you have 4 guys in front of Duran, whereas up front there's openings that Kuntar could step into right away. Kind of how Beecher did last year. I think it seems like from the Bruins brass, they felt like they were going to send Beecher down to Providence, and then he came out, had a great camp, and they basically looked at each other and said, we can't send him back. He's played too well. And then when his play dipped a little bit, they sent him down. It helped them with the cap situation they were in, and then they were able to call him back up. And, we said it last Friday during the prospect special, Bruins players get better when they get called up and sent back down. Any word on any undrafted, drafted players attending this year's development camp in July?
No, none that I'm aware of.
I was just say, I think we'll get that roster, like 3 weeks before, 2 weeks before or something?
I think we'll get it.
No.
Well, it's earlier this year, is it not?
Yeah. It's actually
Because usually we get it after the draft.
Let's see.
But I don't know.
1, 2. It's in 3 weeks. It's the first week of July. So my guess is with the what's the date of the draft? Is it the 29th?
The 28th and 29th. For the Bruins, it's the 29th.
Right. I mean, screw it. Trade those three and just take the weekend off. If you can get something for them. But yeah, no, it's 3 weeks away. So my guess is they'll probably have all their invites out before, like the week before, right before the draft. They're not picking anybody high enough in the draft that would be coming to camp this year anyway, probably would be my guess. You're talking 18, 19-year-old kids who are still in juniors who are just getting ready to enter their first year of NCAA. Like, you're not expecting.
I don't know. I've got my eye on an overager who can't go back to junior, and I've got my eye on a Finnish player.
No, I meant those are the guys they're going to look at to draft.
Right, but I want to see them in development camp.
Sure, but would you draft them, or can they come in as undrafted free agents?
Well, they have to be drafted.
Okay. Let's see. Do we have anything else in the comments section here? I keep trying to reload mine. I got nothing on my end, though. Let's see. There was one other. Oh, here we go. I would expect most people to make it to dev camp. I meant the 3 people that you selected in this year's draft are likely not going to get their invites. I would expect a lot of the people from Providence, some of the other guys in the system. You'll get a lot of players at camp for sure. I'm not sure that any of the 3 guys that you draft this year in the 4th, 5th, and 6th round are, I wouldn't mind having them at camp, but if you're going to have your camp,
I don't know. We got Nason and Kostadinsky in last year, and they were 7th round picks.
Yeah, it doesn't hurt. I don't know if you're going to have the turnaround time. That's all.
Well,
depending on
they're here for the draft anyway, so yeah,
maybe. This year's draft picks will be there. Depends on who they take, but I wouldn't mind. I know we mentioned Muhlenberg on Friday's draft, the prospect special. Do we have any update as to whether or not he's going to make it to camp? I know last Friday it wasn't looking pretty good.
No, I haven't spoken. I haven't spoken with them since then, so I'm not sure.
Yeah, I know we talked about that on Friday when we were talking about him, but definitely someone that I want to try and keep an eye on during the season this fall. So let's see. There was one other. I'm just trying to pull it up here from from the HF board's responses to the last Friday's video. Here we go. This one was asked, if the Bruins get into the first round, it would be cool if they could draft Iginla, but I highly doubt he gets by the Flames. What other centers would be available in mid to late first round? Do you want to get into any of the players that you're looking at for where they're currently drafting? I don't really want to spend too much time on the first round until they actually get a pick in the first round.
Yeah, like I said, I don't want to go there. I'm doing a draft preview for the Bruins, players that will be there and who I think they should look at. But I'm not going to speculate at a first round pick because they don't have one.
Right. I was going to say, once they get the first round pick, then we can have that conversation. But as far as the picks in rounds 4, 5, and 6, is there anyone that you feel comfortable enough mentioning at this point, or are you still kind of doing some of the digging into that project?
No, I'm doing the dig. I'd rather not discuss it till it's done and out there.
Makes sense. That makes sense. Let me see. Are there any final questions from our viewers tonight? Let's see. Would they bring back someone like William Rousseau, goalie of the year in the Q this year? Belfield was there last year. Yeah, I don't see why they would.
They're going to need goaltenders for the prospects games in Buffalo because Svedback can't play. Okay, because he's a college student, so they're not allowed to play in it. Bussy is aged out. DiPietro is aged out. So really, they got no goalies for the prospects tournament. So they're going to have invites.
Yeah, they'll have some. I wonder if they'll bring that kid back from last year, the one
Russo. That's who he's talking about.
Was he the one from Harvard?
No. He's the one from Harvard. Sucks, man.
Does he now? I haven't
had
a chance to see him.
Russo was the guy. Russo was the guy that got into 2 games.
Oh, he might have been the one I was thinking of then. I don't know. It's been a while. I've had a lot go on in the last calendar year, so I'd have to go back and find the notes from last year. But yeah, I mean, I don't have a lot more for this week just because not much has happened. And we just did the long episode on Friday. Like I said, that'll be released as a pod later tonight. Just finalizing some timestamps on some of the players so that you can listen in based on who you want to hear about. Dom, do you have any other thoughts or any other questions in the chat that I just can't see at the moment? All right, let's see here.
I'm just going to add this.
From Mike, is there any OHL guy in the 20? Let's see. Can you hear me okay at least?
Yeah.
Okay. It says, is there any OHL guy in the 20 to 60 range who you do love and think is overlooked?
My OHL rankings haven't come out, and they will be out within the 2 weeks, and that's when I'll comment about OHL rankings. But
yeah, I mean,
it's not a strong OHL draft class.
Yeah, and there's going to be a lot of guys
just not.
I think Sweeney's going to look at a lot of guys that are Group 6 free agents, guys that are not qualified from their teams that are RFAs. And I think there's going to be, I think one thing to look towards going into next year as well are the waiver eligible, or the players who are now no longer waiver exempt. Tom, any word on Richie? Which one, Kevin?
Yeah, actually, I think he'll be in the American Hockey League next year. I'm pretty sure he will be. You're talking about Callum Richie, right?
I'm surprised he hasn't asked about Andre Kasha.
Oh my God.
No, I think this year there's going to be a lot of players that are now qualified for waivers that are going to possibly get waived next year, and a lot of teams will make claims on them.
I don't know. You got to remember when you claim a guy for the year.
Yeah, true. I don't know. It's going to be an interesting offseason, that's for sure. I think the extra few $100,000 in the cap is going to help a lot of teams, especially add a little flexibility too. I mean, most teams, if they're smart, they would operate off the original cap number and leave the $300,000 to, bank space. But
Peter's
obviously,
Peter's got Peter's got a good question there
all right, let's pull it up here.
that's worth an answer. So,
Are you able to pull it up?
no,
Oh, that's weird.
I can't. What did it say? Um, I lost it now. Oh, what criteria do you look at in players in the draft when determining who the Bruins will draft?
There it is.
It depends on when. Now we're talking the fourth, fifth, and sixth round. I'm looking for the Bruins, not organizational need. At that point, you're not drafting per need. You're looking for a guy like I'll use Oscar Yelvik as an example. A guy who's a long ways away, shows signs of having talent, whose trajectory can go up like this. So it's all about potential. You're betting on that potential that it's going to go like this and not plateau or level out or even drop. He's a classic example. I don't care about size. I'm looking for skill and I'm looking for potential. Another example is Jackson Edward. Okay. 6th round pick.
Yeah, I think so.
Donslock Mellis. Another one. 4th-round pick.
Yeah, and we do have another question from Jerry. I can't pull it up onto the screen. I apologize, but it says, I may have missed this because I'm late joining. What are your thoughts about the Bees picking a goalie in this draft? What seems like a loaded system like that seems like a light system now that Dick wasn't re-signed.
Like I said, I'm doing my Bruins draft preview, and I've got an eye on the goalie in the 5th round.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised with 3 draft picks. I wouldn't be surprised to see a forward, a defenseman, and a goaltender in any order. But at the same time, they do have organizational needs. So if they feel like getting 2 centers and a defense or something, like nothing that they draft in that round will surprise me. It's late round draft picks, and you need a little bit of everything. So you take flyers on the guys that, like you said, you look at potential and say, can we tap into that at all?
Yeah, need isn't going to come into it at that point.
No, when you're drafting in the 4th, 5th, 6th rounds, you're just drafting to bring players into the system that you think you can bring the best out of. And then the question becomes, what kind of player are they? Because, are they going to be a type of player who's a power play specialist on defense, or are they going to be a scoring sniper on the front wing? Like, there's a difference there, but beyond that, you just sit there and go, who's got the highest potential, and do we think we can make it work?
You look at their history over the last few years. Oscar Yelvik, Donslock Mellis, Riley Duran, Jackson Edward, Kuntar, I think, was a 3rd-round pick, was an overager. So those are guys that they picked in the 4th round and later, and all with serious potential to play for the Boston Bruins. Not top 6 material, but still play for the Boston Bruins. Yeah, because they went for potential. They saw something that they thought they could bring out of them, and they're bringing it out of them.
Yeah, and another guy like that, more recent, was Christian Konstantinsky. Like, 7th round flyer. It's a flyer on a guy, but you see something in him that makes you go, if we can teach him to skate and he can get better at skating, he's a bruiser. He can be physical, and as a defenseman, he can stop plays from happening. So there's something there. The question is, can we teach the kid to skate?
Yeah.
And the bigger question is, does he want to work with us to let him learn how to skate? Because you have the systems in place to help all of these players. There's a huge difference between the drive. We were talking about, I think it was Drew Pavaro on Friday, the drive that he has right now to get back in school because his grades, versus a guy like Fabian Lysell.
No, Cole Spicer.
Cole Spicer. Sorry. I knew I was going to get it wrong. But the point being, who is a later round pick than Fabian Lysell, but Fabian Lysell, the questions are, how bad does he want it? Does he want to work his ass off and get to the NHL? Like, we were talking about the compete level that Kuntar has. Like, there's something in Kuntar, and in this case, it's the rat, the desire to do whatever it takes to play. It's whereas Lysell, you drafted him because he's got the shot, he's got the skills. Now, do you find a way to tap into his mentality where he has the same kind of, or even half the drive to play as Kuntar?
Oh God, if he had half, he'd be in the NHL right now.
I know. That's kind of the point, though. So, anyways, I know we're approaching 7:30 here. Dom, was there anything else that you had that you wanted to go over?
Not that I can think of.
Are you enjoying the Stanley Cup final?
No, because Florida's winning.
Any thoughts on the Draisaitl hit on Barkov last night?
No, I just want Edmonton to win because it's the best thing for the Bruins cap-wise. I'm always thinking, what angle is best for the Bruins? And it's an Edmonton win.
I want an Edmonton win too, because I just want to see Florida lose.
Yeah,
but yeah,
it
helps for Peace as well. I mean, granted, losing Barkov, that'll help. That helps Edmonton to work on their comeback. So,
did you see that AI video of Paul Maurice telling Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl to keep their heads up next game? It was brilliantly done.
No, it didn't. Oh, now I got to go find it. That sounds amazing.
Yeah, it's on X.
Although I will say this, I thought the outroar for Draisaitl hitting Barkov the way he did, I thought it was hilarious, because the Panthers have been hitting players like that all playoff run. And now it happens to them, and it's, oh my God, how dare he?
The sad thing for me about the whole thing is Barkov is the one player on the Panthers that doesn't deserve it.
No, I agree with you there. All I'm saying is the outroar of how dare they?
Well, sure.
Versus what your teams are doing all fucking playoff run. Shut the fuck up. And who was it? There was I think it was Luosterainen took the stick to the old Chapel Bells over there. And let's see. Kevin says, because I'm a douche like that. Okay.
Yeah, he's a douche. That's why I put it up.
I think it was Luosterainen who took that hit, the cup check hit. And my immediate thought was, can't be complaining about it. It was hilarious when Ovechkin did it to Trent Frederick 2.5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
If it was funny then, it's still funny now, right? We can't be bitching for a penalty now. Like, what happened?
Well, it's fun. I just hope Edmonton can come back.
I hope they get a good boost from the home crowd, and I think they can. I think they need a couple days off after what happened down in Florida. regain their heads, go up to Edmonton. I think game 3 is crucial for them, but they have it. So Kevin said I called Florida at the start, so I want them to win so I can be right.
That's why he's a douche. I just put him up in reverse order.
Oh, I gotcha. That makes sense. I mean, we still knew that about Kevin anyway. So
Yeah.
Beyond that, I'm just trying to check real quick to see if there were any other comments or anything like that I can find. But are there any other ones after Kevin?
No.
Alrighty. Dom, I know I've asked you this before, but any final thoughts here? I figure we'll let the people go early tonight because we kept them for 3.5 hours on Friday.
Well, yeah, I hope everybody enjoyed that Friday one. It was fun doing it, especially the interaction, the questions. Those are always fun. Um, I think we'll do another one next Tuesday, right?
I think so. Yeah, I think Tuesday seems
I
to work. We'll try and do like a mailbag episode or something.
I think that's the second last one before the draft, right? Or is that the last one before the draft?
I'm getting the calendar out right now. We have the draft is on the 28th, so we have 2 more episodes before the draft. If we keep with the Tuesday theme, the 18th and the 25th.
So hopefully by the 25th, we'll do a draft one. By then, we'll know if the Bruins have moved up into the first round. Yeah, we'll know if they moved up into the first round, and maybe we'll do a little draft preview.
Yeah, I'm going back and forth right now about us doing a live draft show just because the Bruins don't have a selection, but if until the 4th round, maybe we'll do one if they get a first round pick, just because that'll be a lot more interesting and worth discussing the day of. But
yeah,
I think we'll save that call for a week and a half from now when we have a better idea of what they'll do. But like I said, we'll send something out so we can try and do a mailbag episode. Get some questions before the episode, get some during the episode. And Jerry says, enjoying the past draft analysis. Thanks, Dom. Hopefully we can.
Thanks, Jerry. When the next ones come out, you'll see. I'm trying to teach something with these draft recaps under Don Sweeney, Jerry, and that is that it's not always as it seems. Sweeney had to take a couple of years to rebuild the scouting department that Peter Chiarelli had left him. And that's why we see a couple of bad drafts. What we're starting to see coming out with the next few is how, because of the way he's rebuilt the scouting department, it's gotten better. And hopefully by the time the last one comes out, everybody will catch on to that and see the difference.
Yeah, and you've also got to remember too, not you as you're writing this, but fans in general, Don Sweeney's average draft position has been like 52 or something like that overall. It's not exactly like he's getting top 10 picks every year. If he was getting top 10 picks every year, and Buffalo is a great comparison. They're constantly getting high-end first-round picks, and look where it's getting them. It's not always about hitting on a guy with talent. It's about hitting on the right guy with talent at the right time. I mean, think about it. The Bruins hit a grand slam on Patrice Bergeron. He wasn't a first-rounder. Like, they could have easily missed on that pick. Luckily, they didn't.
Brad Marchand was a third, but we don't have to go that far back. We just have to go back a couple of years and understand how they're finding players late in the draft that other teams are not.
Right. So with that, I think we'll wrap up tonight's show, unless there's any other comments that I can't see. Again, my chat thing seems to be down at the moment. But yeah, with that, follow us, What's Bruin, on YouTube. Every time we go live, you can get a notification. Kevin says you could write the reasons why Don Sweeney is a good GM in crayon with pictures for some of these morons, and they still wouldn't get it. Kevin, we don't have the time nor the crayons to do that.
I got crayons. My grandson has thousands of them.
It's the time that you don't have. I don't have the crayons to do it, but I right now I have the time.
Right? Yeah.
So,
oh well.
Anyway, like I said, What's Bruin 6342 on YouTube, Twitch as well. You can get notified every time we go live, but we do try to send out the links as often as we can as well. My final thought here, Dom, is go Bees.
Go Bees.